Good evening. So tonight I've been doing some art video recording, and I want to, whenever I present a piece, since I've got my second cam up and going and it's looking pretty decent, I would say it's like 90 to 95% of what I'm looking for. I'm still working out a few finer details, but ultimately it's in good shape. And I'm mainly starting with early works and going forwards, which is also what I do with casting sculptures. I've got about probably close to 200 molds, and I'm about maybe 20 pieces in as far as larger pieces, as casting them and things like this. And of course, a lot of small pieces and medium sized ones, but ultimately, a lot to do. And so I'm putting the sculptures out into the world, looking to make connections with good people, homesteads that are aligned with basically being outright humane and moral and principled. For now, unless I find an extraordinary gallery that is openly pro-Palestinian and is not engaged in status quo elitism and all that assigns itself and assigns others, and further degrades the general populace and its needs, I'm going to stay private and grind away at presenting my pieces online and through video presentation. I'll tell you the story about my gallery experiment in Houston, Texas at another date, and one in Laguna Beach in California, and another one in Carmel, California. That was a lifetime or two ago, so not too relevant today. I'm going to switch over to the sculpture over on my other channel, michaelangellstudios. Is the longer version of this piece as far as the presentation goes, and you can go there and watch and listen to that. This is more of a not symbolic, but more of a pragmatic commercial of sorts, to show the piece, talk a little bit about it, not go in depth, but to remain focused on this channel's basically aim in talking about world issues, human relationships, various perceptions of reality and non-reality, and everything in between. So early days, I've only been working with uploading YouTube videos for about a month and a half now, and it's been a mind-bending, pretzeling situation, just learning everything and going back and refining videos and adding in screens and links and getting on various other platforms that are tools that are linked with YouTube. So it's still an ongoing embryonic imaginal cell situation. So bear with me. I'm getting better by the video. So here is the sculpture. This is called Adorable, the Swamp Fairy Queen's Steed. And this is bronze, about 15.5 inches tall, 12 inches deep, and 10 inches wide. And here they are. So this piece was finished, curiously enough, May 2nd, 2013. And I'm making this video on May 1st. So I like the non-coincidence of this. So I want to put a shout out, if I can find it, because I can never remember certain phrases, including sophisticated or semi-sophisticated camera abbreviations. So the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II is the cam that's recording this. Not as much of a powerhouse as the Sony Alpha 7 III, but it is doing a decent job. I'm pretty darn pleased with it. But I do recommend people, if you do have this as a cam, put it on manual and learn how to work with manual setting as far as ISO and f-stops and all that jazz. I think that's a good bit of advice. And this is running through an Elgato cam link as well, translating the info going into USB-C on an external powered hub, because I've got my my Rodecaster and my main cam, which is the Sony Alpha. They're running through the only two high speed that are on the back of the Mac. So there's a lot of nerdy stuff I can get into, but I'll not do that tonight. So this is, again, an early piece. This is where I branched away from doing smaller, like desktop pieces of the original family, I call them, about 12 or 15, well, 12 to 13 original smaller bronzes, which will be coming very soon in presentation format like this. And this is the first sculpture where I went large and got more into a narrative environment, rather than kind of like a vignette where you have a character, a main character, and maybe a one or two or three elements that support them in some way, either a bent mushroom or a skull on the ground, or a little mushroom bowl, or a boat, various elements like that. This was much more involved. I did the original wax, delivered it to the foundry. They cast it. All hell broke loose, because they didn't follow my instructions to cast the fairy queen as one piece connected to the toad. They went against my wishes and cut her in half, basically. That's a long story. Won't get into it. You'll find it in on my other channel. But let's just say that this piece has got a lot of teaching moments and history to it. I call this kind of my mothership piece, or at least for that era. Every once in a while, once a year, I'll have one major piece that I work on, and I call it the mothership. So that's them. That's the Swamp Fairy Queen atop her steed called Adorable. And again, a longer narrative and presentation on my other channel. And if I remember to do it, I'll leave a link to the other channel down below in the description. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch back over to the main camera and then hop off and then come back because I want to turn off the cam and shut this down so the camera's not going for no good reason. Okay. So a little different lighting tonight. The one that's in front of the computer, I turned it off just to see what kind of effect that might give me, and it's also late. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, so having camera in my face and the focus is a little weird. I think let me do a little experiment here. Get Crocky up here and see what he does. Absolutely nothing. Well, looks like it's okay. So after that distraction and blurry crocodile in the screen, I want to reiterate a few things just to keep my my aim with this channel going forwards. Israel and their propaganda department, along with the U.S. State Department and APAC, is really bearing down on private creators, independent journalists. Trump and his sort of adolescent fascist presidential cabinet and family is also bearing down. And there's something that's happening in the shadows of what he seems to be keeping people occupied with, and that is the collapse of American empire and the ramifications of that are happening in real life, in real time, that Trump seems to be completely disassociated from and in 100% denial. I mean, ultimately, it's an aspect of Trump's condition that he is more, he has to maintain attention on himself. So any talk of consequences or the results of said attention being kept on him is no man's land. His ego, his persona cannot go there because that means there's these consequences are a reflection of him, and that's not that's something that he's in complete denial around. If there are consequences, it's because NATO didn't do enough. If the ballroom doesn't get built, it's because of the Democrats or the woke agenda or maybe it was Hamas. Uh, so it's always someone else's fault, and self accountability is not Trump's forte. And this goes way back, most likely to his childhood, where um, he learned that it's not safe to be yourself. And so he pretended to be something else eventually. And this pretense is what armors him and shields the little boy inside of him. And this little boy has been shielded for a long time. I mean, I would say that Trump's emotional quotient is maybe around 13 or 14 years old. Arrested development is what psychology calls it, and in order to really know Trump and understand him, you have to study his lineage, his ancestry, and those biographies and those histories, both on the mother's side and the father's side. Um, it's not enough to simply criticize, at least I feel, it's not enough to simply criticize the child or the son or the daughter. Uh, one, I mean, if you really want to get constructive, you have to dig up some bones and start laying them out, and in a respectful way. Of course, I don't mean this in a like a vigilante way, but respectively. Like if human beings ever really get serious about mental illness and understanding the human condition and how things are basically inherited pathologically through temperament, mood, vibe, belief systems, uh, they have to dig up some bones. They have to do some mind, psyche, or archaeology. And so I did this a little bit with Trump, maybe during his first term, a little research on his dad and but not much, just enough to know that his dad humiliated him in a very big way at a dinner one evening. This was a huge turning point, I feel, for Trump. Um, like when you're a child and your father humiliates you, it's kind of a done deal. Um, it's like a heartbreaking instance where when you're a child, it doesn't take too many strikes uh, to like. There's no three strike rule, at least as far as I feel, because I have some experience with it. Um, it's usually a one strike or two strike situation where if a parent, I mean, I guess it depends on the level of the trauma, but it only takes one really dense event and the child disconnects completely. And that child may come back around and snuggle up to the parent in some wanting way, but the distrust has already been established. And the expectation of uh, what you want or what you're getting that looks like what you want evaporating is always there because the trauma has established it as an unsafe space that has been earmarked and tattooed as a high probability of being unsafe or unpredictable. Of course, that's just life too. That lesson will either come to a person when they're a child or when they're a young adult. Eventually, it pretty much is delivered to everyone. But how a child reads a message that, say, a 20 something does is completely different. And for Trump, I think it happened quite a bit. And he then associated with a father figure whose name I don't have off the top of my hard drive, but that father figure that he imprinted upon, or imprinted upon him, it works both ways, um, was in a sense an even worse teacher, but seemingly was some kind of hero worship icon for Trump. Um, but if you get into Trump's history and his family history, um, it's it's pretty swampy, um, and very abrasive, abusive patriarchs, and normally when you have an abusive patriarch, the matriarch is oftentimes enabling that in some way. And it works both ways. Like, I'm not saying that the mother figure is subservient to the patriarch in some predictable way, because I feel like misery loves company, and often a shadow, a dark father will be attracted to a dark mother, and so there's not. I'm not trying to build some kind of universal model here. It's just a case by case situation. There's no monolithic one recipe serves all, although archetypes are monolithic, but specifically different for each individual, like how they interpret it, what the archetype, how it plays out in their specific life, and their relationship to it. So, back to the world at large and things that Trump is in denial about. Um, Fuel prices are skyrocketing. Energy costs for homes and food costs, things like this. Iran is starting to ramp up to get into what they would call the real war, and so I think we're on the brink of a major reckoning. Israel is genociding through Lebanon, um, bulldozing villages. Since they can't really engage Hezbollah in guerrilla warfare, they just don't have the training, they don't have the knowledge of the terrain. Most of them are reservist, and ultimately ideological cowards, in that they basically roam around in armored vehicles, drop bombs from the sky, um, monitor things with drones. They're not really combatants, as far as hand to hand, or going to be going into the forests of Lebanon hunting down Hezbollah on foot. That's just not the the temperament of the IDF. The IDF are um, more leather chair, cognac, pinky held out sippers, and mainly they like to snipe children, shoot protesters in the kneecaps, and torture, kidnap, false imprison, uh, sell Palestinian land to dual visa citizens in the United States, 600,000 plus illegal settler terrorists are living in the West Bank, completely illegal. Um, and the world is resisting. Uh, Spain has jumped into the mix. Israel, the IDF, captured 100 flotilla uh, aid workers that or volunteers who were bringing aid to Gaza. No one knows where they went. No one knows where they're being held. There's footage around it. Spain sent a battleship and fired on, I believe, a drone that the IDF was terrorizing the flotilla with. Um, so there's some engagement on the European side for the first time with the IDF, and again, there's an ethnic cleansing going on um, in Lebanon, and of course daily in Gaza and the West Bank. So the 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 bloodlust uh, and moral cannibalism that Israel has been engaging in since October 8th of 2023 has not let up. Um, the atrocities still come out, a long, long, long list. Um, Basically, these are things that Santa Claus would look at and just ultimately crawl inside a coffin and slide into oblivion, um, and retire indefinitely. Uh, this is just the destruction of magic, of dreams, um, the pillaging of innocence. Um, just just extraordinary malfunction of humanity, both in Egypt and Jordan, Turkey, uh, Saudi Arabia, UAE. None of these countries came to the rescue of the Palestinians and still have not. Uh, all vassal states, monarchies of the US State Department. And Iran is an outlier. Um, I have some theories about how it is that they were able to do what they've done. Although they did have the coup that the CIA and MI6 and others did back in the 70s with it, installing a Shah, but that didn't last very long. So a lot of history there, um, but Iran's very old, and I think that has something to do with it. Just the strength of the being of the civilization itself. Um, so it's tricky times. I saw that the far right is going after Hasan Piker, which is both unfortunate and fortunate. Unfortunate because it's just further proof that they have no sense of self-awareness, and they only know one mode, and divide and conquer, smear, lie, arrest, detain, disappear, um, basically destruction. And on the advantageous side, it brings attention to them when they go after someone who's popular or high profile, especially someone who's not connected to a corporation or a U.S. senator or um, some lobby group like APAC. So it brings attention to the victimizer, let's say. So we shall see. I feel like um, there's some very strong indications that apartheid Israel will not last. Um, Definitely not. Uh, I think it's going to fall and dissolve much quicker than maybe I was thinking 4 to 6 months ago. I feel like things are accelerating due to social media and just people's 3 year plus hyper awareness around everything that's been going on there since post October 7th. And there's no justification for genocide. Just let's be clear about that. Um, and leveling Gaza and calling everything Hamas got old fast. And if you don't have to dig too deep to realize that it's just a deflection trope that people who don't really choose to think deeply and do research to have a dignified, uh, constructive education around these things will believe things like that because it resembles their own uh, attitude around knowing and understanding. So something flippantly put out there where they blame someone always, and the person hearing that doesn't take the word Hamas and then go to Wikipedia, go to YouTube, study that word. What does it mean? Where have they come from? What do they do? What's their history? Um, oh, they said something about the Jewish uh, ethnicity in this doctrine. Well, why did they change it later? Have they ever been given credit for that? And if they're not being given credit for changing what they had originally stated, why not? Well, maybe because it serves the propaganda better. Well, why aren't they being honest about what Hamas is? Asking questions, being inquisitive, doing your homework so that you don't simply believe something because the person who told you it believes it. Um, that's even a deeper form of ignorance when someone who knows they're lying lies, and then someone hears that lie as the truth. They don't do any kind of homework, they don't fact check it. They believe the lie is a truth, and then they impart it upon another person. So it's like it creates a sort of like a black diamond where um, sure it's a diamond, but for what? It's it's counterintuitive to truth, and that may not be the best metaphor. That's kind of like a late night peculiar metaphor that just slipped in, but I think you get the point. Um, so I think Iran's going to uh, do a kind of Hail Mary to finally try and wake Donald Trump's um, megalomania up a little bit. Um, we'll see. Let's see how it goes. America's very good at denial and deflection, and there's a lot of spoilage here as that's being seen and has always been kind of peddled as um, the freedom to be so spoiled. Um, but along with being spoiled, folks take a lot of things for granted that can disappear within a week or less. Um, so, are they prepared? Um, are they prepared to grow up really fast if it hits the fan in a big way? We shall see. Well, I think that's it. I'm going to prepare this video and put it out there. Wish you all well in this time of upheaval, extraordinary, copious amounts of propaganda and um, everything in between. Be good to yourself. Rest if you can. Thank the ancestors. My heart goes out to the Lebanese people, to the Palestinians, to the Iranians, and to others, individuals who are trapped um, between a rock and a hard place, human beings in general, solitary individuals who have escaped an ideology or a career, but still are trapped in a geographical location that they can't get out of. Good luck. We're all going to need it. Thank you for listening, and feel free to leave a comment, like and subscribe, please. Share the channel, and good night.